What if I told you there's a book that reveals the names of angels cast out of heaven, that exposes a divine rebellion so catastrophic it split the heavens apart, and details a race of giants born from unholy unions between angels and humans who once ruled the earth with terrifying power? A book older than the Bible, once cherished by the early church, but then mysteriously erased, buried, forbidden. Why? What did Enoch see? What did he know? He didn't die. He was taken by God, alive. But before he vanished, Enoch wrote something terrifying, something holy men feared for thousands of years. A manuscript that described a war in heaven, fallen angels teaching humanity forbidden knowledge, and a coming judgment that would shake the earth to its core. This is the lost Book of Enoch, and what it reveals might change everything you thought you knew about the Bible, the afterlife, and the very origins of evil itself. They called it apocryphal, but what if it was true? Welcome to my channel, where we uncover the stories that shaped history, stories of hidden heroes, secret plots, and divine intervention. If you love discovering the untold mysteries of the Bible, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with others who might need to hear this powerful story. They called it apocryphal, but what if it was true?
Let's open it.
Thousands of years ago, a book was written. A book so dangerous that it was hidden away from mankind. It tells the story of the Watchers, angels who came down to earth and did the unthinkable, of giants, the Nephilim, born of their forbidden union with mortal women, of prophecies that foretold the end of the world as we know it. This is the Book of Enoch, once considered sacred scripture, now a lost relic, buried in the shadows of history. But why was it removed from the Bible? What truths did it reveal that were too dangerous to remain in the hands of the people? Could it be that the Book of Enoch was erased to hide the knowledge of the fallen angels and the giants? Or was there something far more terrifying within its pages? What is it that the powerful forces of history wanted to keep buried? The Book of Enoch begins with the story of the Watchers, 200 angels sent from the heavens, tasked with watching over humanity. But these were no ordinary angels. They were powerful, radiant beings who had been granted a unique role in God's divine plan. They were the eyes of the Almighty, entrusted with guiding the course of humankind, ensuring that the delicate balance between heaven and earth remained intact. These angels were not created just to observe. They were to be guardians, protectors of mankind. But something stirred within them, something that would lead them down a path from which there was no return. Instead of remaining pure in their heavenly mission, they began to feel a forbidden desire, a longing for something beyond their divine roles. As they looked upon earth from the heavens, the angels saw the daughters of men, beautiful, innocent, and full of life. These women were different from any being the angels had ever known. Their beauty, their vulnerability, awakened something deep within the Watchers, something they had never been meant to feel. They fell in love and took human wives. This was no ordinary union. It was the breaking of divine law, the corruption of the heavenly order. The angels, once pure and faithful, now defied God's command. They chose to live as men, to embrace the mortal world in a way that was never intended for them. And from these unions came beings of unimaginable power, the Nephilim. The Nephilim were giants, towering over humanity in both size and strength, beings whose very presence could shatter the earth's foundations. But it wasn't just their physical dominance that set them apart. They were arrogant, filled with a sense of entitlement that no mortal could match. The Nephilim believed they were gods themselves, and they ruled the earth as such. Nothing was beyond their reach, no being too powerful to be subjugated by their will. The Book of Enoch describes them as the mighty ones, mighty not just in power, but in their greed, their hunger for more strength, more dominion. They consumed everything in their path, land, resources, and even the very spirit of humanity. The world trembled beneath their weight, and with their power came chaos. The Nephilim didn't just destroy, they twisted and corrupted. The earth, once a paradise, began to rot. The fertile land turned barren, crops withered, and the oceans became polluted. The giants did not know how to satisfy their insatiable hunger. They took and took, leaving nothing behind but destruction. And so, as the Nephilim wreaked havoc across the earth, humanity cried out for mercy. The people, once hopeful and full of life, were now crushed beneath the weight of these mighty giants. They had become prey to beings who were not bound by human law, by human empathy. The world was collapsing, the balance between heaven and earth undone, and it seemed that no one could save it from destruction. Then God looked down upon his creation. He saw the world he had made, now twisted and broken by the actions of the Watchers and their offspring. His heart was heavy with sorrow, knowing the extent of the corruption. He had created a world of beauty and peace, but now it had been tainted by the very beings he had entrusted with the care of it. He knew that the only way to save humanity, the only way to restore order, was to act. He would send his most powerful angels, Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, to put an end to the chaos that had been unleashed upon the world. Divine judgment was coming. God, in his divine justice, summoned the archangels, Michael, Gabriel, Raphael. These were the mightiest beings in heaven, beings of immense power and wisdom, revered by all in the heavenly realm. They were the closest to God, the perfect instruments of his will, and now they were tasked with delivering a punishment to the fallen angels, those who had defied the Creator and led humanity into darkness. The judgment that followed was swift and merciless. The Nephilim, those half-human, half-angelic giants, who had once roamed the earth with terror, were destroyed. Their reign of destruction, their tyrannical rule over mankind, was brought to an end in one mighty sweep. The flood came, a deluge so vast, so powerful, it would wash the earth clean of the Nephilim's taint. But this was not just a flood of water. It was a flood of divine wrath, an outpouring of God's anger and sorrow, a final act of cleansing. The waters did not just drown, they obliterated. The flood was a judgment, a divine retribution to erase the corruption of the Nephilim and their creators, the Watchers. The earth, once a paradise, now became a vast sea of destruction, as the floodwaters swept across the land, drowning the Nephilim and all that they had created. Their cities crumbled, their power was extinguished, and their terrifying reign ended with a crushing finality. The giants were gone, but the punishment did not end there. The Watchers themselves, those angels who had fallen from grace, who had defied God's will, were not spared. They were cast into the deepest, darkest pit of the earth, a place so far removed from the light that it could never be reached. Their wings, once symbols of their celestial grace, were torn from them. Their beauty, once radiant and glorious, was shattered beyond recognition. They were bound in chains of eternal darkness, forever imprisoned for their treachery. The Book of Enoch describes this punishment in terrifying detail. The fallen angels, once luminous beings of divine light, now lay trapped in the abyss. They were bound by unbreakable chains, their forms twisted, their spirits broken. No longer would they soar through the heavens or bask in the presence of God. Instead, they would remain in this prison, forgotten and forsaken, their fate sealed for all eternity. And so the earth was cleansed. The Nephilim, the giants who had once held dominion over mankind, were destroyed, their empire of terror wiped out in the flood. The Watchers, those who had been sent to guide and protect humanity, were punished and imprisoned, their rebellious actions erased from memory. The world was given a chance to begin again. But was it truly over? The flood may have washed away the Nephilim. But what if their legacy was never fully destroyed? What if their influence remained, hidden from our eyes? What if the Watchers' rebellion had set in motion something far greater than anyone could have foreseen? What if the Nephilim's bloodline still existed, buried deep beneath the surface of history, waiting for the right moment to rise again? Could their legacy be lingering hidden in plain sight, waiting for the world to forget, and then return with vengeance? The flood may have wiped the earth clean, but it could never erase the echoes of what the Watchers had done. And as the centuries passed, the memory of the Nephilim faded, but what if they were never truly gone? So the question remains, why was the Book of Enoch removed from the Bible? Why was a text that told the story of the fallen angels, the Nephilim, and the divine judgment hidden away from the world? It's a question that has haunted scholars, theologians, and seekers of truth for centuries, a question that lies at the heart of the hidden history of the Bible. The Book of Enoch was once a widely known and accepted scripture. It was revered by many early Christians, and even considered sacred by some branches of Judaism. Yet, somewhere along the way, it was cast aside, removed from the official canon, and buried in the shadows of history. What made this book so dangerous? What truths were contained within its pages that the powers in charge of religion could not allow to be known? The Book of Enoch was far more than just a tale of giants and fallen angels. It revealed secrets about the very fabric of the cosmos, about the divine hierarchy, and about the moral and spiritual battles between good and evil that have shaped humanity's journey for millennia.
Some say the Book of Enoch was too dangerous. It spoke of angels who defied God, of beings who crossed the line between the divine and the human realms, leading to catastrophic consequences. It told the story of the Nephilim, of giants born of angels and women, creatures that walked the earth and brought chaos and destruction. It exposed the dark side of heaven's influence on earth, something the religious authorities could not afford to allow the masses to comprehend. The Book of Enoch also spoke of the divine judgment, of a time when the heavens would shake, when the forces of darkness would be cast down, and the world would be purged by a flood. It revealed the nature of the fallen angels, the Watchers, beings sent to guide humanity, who instead corrupted it by teaching forbidden knowledge, by sharing secrets of heaven that should have never been passed to mankind. And it didn't just speak of the past. The Book of Enoch contained prophecies, visions of the end of days, of the return of the fallen angels, and a final judgment that would bring an end to the reign of evil and corruption. It foresaw a time when the world would face its reckoning, when the forces of good would rise again, and the earth would be cleansed once more. These were not just stories or fanciful myths. The Book of Enoch challenged everything the established religious authorities wanted to maintain. It spoke of a world that was far more complex than the simple narratives that were being promoted at the time. It revealed a cosmic struggle between good and evil, one that was not just about humanity's sin, but about the very fabric of reality itself, about angels, demons, the Nephilim, and the divine will. And so, the powers in charge of religious dogma, those who held sway over the interpretation of the Bible, could not allow the Book of Enoch to remain. It exposed too much. It opened too many doors. It forced questions that could not be answered by the traditional teachings. The Book of Enoch did not fit neatly into the narrative that the church and the leaders of religion wanted to preserve. It challenged everything they believed in, and so, it was removed. The removal of the Book of Enoch wasn't just about control over doctrine. It was about control over knowledge. The book spoke of divine secrets, ancient wisdom, and forbidden knowledge, secrets that, if understood, could change everything. Knowledge about the very nature of angels, about the structure of the heavens, and about mankind's place in the universe. It was a knowledge that would raise uncomfortable questions for the established powers, questions that could undermine their authority. Let's take a moment to consider the historical context. The process of deciding what texts would be included in the Bible wasn't a simple or neutral one. It was a political process, filled with power struggles, debates, and conflicts. The formation of the biblical canon was not just about spiritual matters, it was about shaping the religious and social order. As the Christian church gained more power, the need to maintain control over the narrative of salvation, morality, and the divine became paramount. And the Book of Enoch posed a direct challenge to that control. In the early centuries of Christianity, the Book of Enoch was widely known, and in some circles, it was even revered as scripture. It was cited by early Christian writers like Tertullian and Origen, and it was even included in some early versions of the Bible. But as the church solidified its authority, as it sought to consolidate its power and align the scriptures with a particular interpretation of Christian doctrine, the Book of Enoch was pushed aside. It wasn't just that the Book of Enoch didn't fit the accepted narrative. It was that the knowledge it contained had the potential to unravel everything. Imagine a world where the true origins of the Nephilim, the giants who once ruled the earth, were understood. A world where the angels' defiance and the divine judgment weren't seen as ancient history, but as active and present realities. The Book of Enoch spoke of the rebellion in heaven, of the dangers of forbidden knowledge, and of the cosmic battle that continued in the heavens and on earth. Could the removal of the Book of Enoch have been an attempt to control more than just religious doctrine? Could it have been an effort to suppress a dangerous truth about the nature of the universe itself? The angels who fell, the Nephilim who were born, the prophecy of the final judgment, these were not just distant events. They were part of a larger cosmic struggle, one that could threaten the very foundation of the world as it was understood by those in power. But there's more to the story. While the rest of the world forgot about Enoch, there were those who continued to preserve his writings. One such group was the Ethiopian Church, which kept the Book of Enoch in their scriptures for centuries. While most of the Christian world moved on, rejecting the book as apocryphal, the Ethiopian Church embraced its teachings, its warnings, and its revelations. They understood the importance of the knowledge contained within the Book of Enoch. And they kept it alive, protected from the forces that sought to bury it. Why did they do this? Was it because they understood the power the book held? Did they see in its pages a key to understanding the mysteries of the universe, the dangers of forbidden knowledge, and the coming judgment? Or did they, too, know something that the rest of the world wasn't ready to hear? That the Book of Enoch contained not just ancient history, but a living prophecy, one that was meant to guide and warn humanity in the days to come. Perhaps the Ethiopian Church understood that the world wasn't ready for the revelations contained within Enoch's writings. But in their wisdom, they kept the book alive, hidden away in the depths of their tradition, waiting for the right time to reveal its secrets to the world. What if that time has come? What if the Book of Enoch's truths, its knowledge of angels, giants, and divine judgment, are more relevant today than ever before? Could the world be on the brink of a new understanding, one that forces us to confront the hidden truths of our past? Or will the Book of Enoch remain buried, its knowledge locked away, its warnings unheeded, until it's too late? Only time will tell. Enoch didn't just tell the story of the fallen angels and the Nephilim. He wasn't simply a witness to the ancient rebellion that reshaped the earth's history. No, Enoch saw something far greater. Something far more terrifying. He saw a vision of the future, a prophecy of a time when the fallen would return, and the earth would face its final judgment. In the Book of Enoch, the prophet speaks of a time when the heavens will tremble, and the earth itself will be shaken to its very core. A time when the forces of darkness, those same forces that once ruled the earth, will rise again, returning to finish what they started. And this time, the world will not survive unless it is cleansed, purified by fire, water, and divine retribution. Could this prophecy be coming true? Are we on the brink of the very events Enoch saw in his visions, when the earth will once again tremble under the weight of these ancient beings? The Book of Enoch foretells of a cosmic battle between the forces of good and evil, a final confrontation that will determine the fate of the world. And some believe that we are now standing at the threshold of this cataclysmic event. Consider the words of Enoch, words that speak of the return of the Nephilim. The giants, those mighty beings born of angels and men, are said to have been destroyed by the flood. Their reign was ended by divine justice. But what if they were never truly eradicated? What if the Nephilim were only hidden, waiting in the shadows for the right moment to return? What if they are stirring once again, preparing to rise and reclaim the earth as their own? The Book of Enoch warns of a final judgment, of a battle between the forces of good and evil unlike any the world has ever seen. It speaks of the fallen angels, the Watchers, being freed from their prison, from the abyss where they were cast. Enoch saw a time when these angels, once bound in eternal darkness, would once again walk the earth, bringing with them the same chaos and destruction that they had unleashed before. And when they return, the earth will be caught in the grip of chaos. The elements will rage. The skies will burn with fire, the oceans will boil, and the very foundations of the earth will crack. There will be no refuge, no place to hide. The world will be consumed by the fury of divine retribution. The fallen angels will unleash their fury, and the Nephilim will once again walk the earth, their power unimaginable, their hunger insatiable. Many believe that the signs of this prophecy are already here. Some point to strange occurrences in the sky, unexplained phenomena, cosmic alignments, meteor showers, and celestial events that seem to mirror the visions described in the Book of Enoch. Could these be signs from the heavens, warning us of the impending return of the Nephilim and the judgment that is soon to follow? Others look to the rise of ancient powers, long-lost civilizations, and forgotten knowledge. Could the secrets of the past be resurfacing, as if the earth itself is remembering the giants who once ruled it? In every corner of the world, there are whispers of ancient beings, creatures of unimaginable power, remnants of the Nephilim's bloodline, still hiding among us, pulling the strings from the shadows. And then there are the strange symbols that have begun to appear, symbols that are reminiscent of those described in the Book of Enoch, marks that seem to tie the modern world back to an ancient past. From strange markings on ancient monuments to the symbols etched into secret societies, there are those who believe that these are signs that the prophecy is already unfolding. The Nephilim, or those who carry their bloodline, may be awakening. Could the Nephilim be rising once again? Are the fallen angels slowly breaking free from their chains, preparing to return to the earth? Many believe the signs are all around us. The world has been growing more chaotic in recent years, with natural disasters, political unrest, and social upheaval becoming more common. Could these be the beginning of the great purification foretold in Enoch's visions? Perhaps it's not just a coincidence that the ancient world seemed to predict such events. What if the destruction of the Nephilim, and the flood that washed away their rule, wasn't the end of the story, but the beginning of something far more profound? What if Enoch's vision wasn't just a warning for his time, but for ours as well? Enoch spoke of a final reckoning, a time when the forces of darkness would rise again. But what if these forces never really disappeared? What if their influence has only been hidden, lying dormant beneath the surface of our reality, waiting for the moment when the world would be ready to face them once more? And perhaps the most chilling aspect of Enoch's prophecy is not just the return of the Nephilim, but the question of what happens when they rise. Who will stand against them? What is the role of humanity in this great cosmic battle? Will the earth be saved by divine intervention, or will it be consumed by the very forces it was meant to overcome? Enoch's words, written long ago, speak of a time when the heavens will tremble, and the earth will shake. But could these words be speaking to us now? Could we be living in the days leading up to the fulfillment of the very prophecies that Enoch saw in his visions? Perhaps we are at the edge of something far greater than we could ever have imagined. The Book of Enoch may not just be a relic of the past, it may be a map to our future. A future that is unfolding right before our eyes. So, what do we do with this knowledge? The prophecy of the Nephilim, of the return of the fallen angels, is more than just an ancient story, it is a warning, a call to action. The time to prepare may be now. But how do we prepare for something so far beyond our understanding? How do we face the giants who once ruled the earth, and who may return to reclaim it? The truth is, we don't know when or how these prophecies will unfold. But the signs are here. The world is changing, and the ancient forces that shaped it may soon rise again. The question is, will we be ready when they do? What do you believe? Are we witnessing the fulfillment of the prophecy of Enoch? And if so, what does that mean for us, for humanity, and for the world as we know it? The answers may lie in the pages of the Book of Enoch. And perhaps, just perhaps, it is time to take another look at the forbidden knowledge that has been hidden from us for so long. What truths did it reveal that were too dangerous to remain in the hands of the people? Do well to like and subscribe for more content like this.